Okay. Can you start a podcast with me, please? I need something to do.
Pastrnak sent it out in front of Malkin to save. They score! Elias Lindholm looks to the heavens.
Here's a chance. Patra right in on goal. He scores. Oh my! What a move by the rookie.
2-on-1. Pastrnak moving in with Marchand. Get it to it. Score!
The zone. Coyle dances in. Backhand score!
Lindholm right wing corner. Pastrnak is there. He scores! David Pastrnak wins it for Boston.
Welcome in, everyone, to another episode of Bruins Tape to Tape. I will be your host tonight. I am Maria from Watertown. If you're watching us on YouTube, you will see that in addition to my lovely co-host Caroline with a K, we are also joined by a very familiar and friendly face of our podcast, Mo, aka Professor Mo. And we are going to be doing our second segment that correlates with several articles that Mo has written on Substack. And tonight's episode is going to be focused on the doctrine of defense. Now, we had previously released our episode that was the doctrine of the philosophy of our forward lines and, you know, the breaking down the differences between, you know, first line, second line, third line, fourth line. Tonight, we're going to be talking about, for me, what I've always been passionate about as it relates to hockey, and that is defense, because I am a firm believer that you build a team from the back end forward. That starts with goaltending, which we will get to in another episode, and defense. And so I am really excited to hear your thought process and your philosophy on that. So welcome in, Mo. Thank you for joining us for another episode. We really appreciate it.
I love you guys having me. I appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
We enjoy picking that weird brain.
It's gonna get weird. Don't worry.
Weird,
And I'm
always entertaining. Always entertaining.
I'm not even high tonight, so these are all sober weird thoughts. So
Well, we love it. And I'm excited to hear particularly what you think about defensive pairing roles, because the Boston Bruins have for decades at this point had a very strong defensive philosophy to their game, to the point where they
sometimes to their detriment.
Sometimes to their detriment.
In the past, it's been to their detriment.
Yes. But they've even so much as brought that philosophy down in Providence, so that way they wouldn't miss a beat if they brought someone up, whether it was for one game or for 25. So enlighten us on what you think these defensive pairings should be doing out there.
And can we just first start this by saying that the GOAT, number 4, Robert Gordon Orr, forever changed how defensemen play hockey.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
100%. 100%.
Yep.
Back in the day, they basically just stood back there and tried to stop the puck, and he completely revolutionized the game by actually participating in the game.
Like literally dancing through.
Yes.
Dancing through the other team. So, just he was, I know you guys are, you're both, you know, a lot younger than I am, but just having watched a guy like that play, and just the beauty and the fluidness to his skill level, and it sounds corny to say this, but I always knew that when I had kids, they were going to be defensemen first.
That's funny because my dad forced me to play defense first too.
Ah!
Well, your
I
dad's
remember.
a dad's a wise man because there are very many reasons for that. I'm going to go quickly on this tangent. You become a much better skater
Mm.
when you start off playing defense because you need to learn the art of pivoting, turning, skating backwards, as opposed to when you're a forward, your
Yep.
progression line is pretty much straight up.
Uh-huh.
Yep. And I mean that's basically an episode in itself. But when you think about it, I mean, the defense, you mess up your crossover at the wrong time, the forward's going to go one way and then go around you.
Yep.
That's why Connor McDavid is so good, because you never know where he's going to go, which is why you always assume he's going to try to go left, right, left, right, left, right. You kind of just stay in the middle and let him dance. But what you could do is, I mean, like you said, you pivot, you turn forward, you skate forwards with it. You just kind of fill that gap. And I mean, if you're just always going to be a forward, you don't really learn that stuff.
Mhm.
So it was one of those things that definitely helped me in my playing. Well, I guess I didn't even play in career, but my minor hockey playing. So it was fun.
So
But
explain to us again, because we hear this terminology quite often. Your top pairing defenseman, then
Yep.
your second pair, and your third group. So
yep.
what is the mindset behind identifying who your top pairing guys are and it's second pair, third pair D-men?
Yep. Yeah, I think a lot of this is going to kind of mirror what you do with the forwards. And when I always think about it is I want my defense to complement my forwards and vice versa. You don't always want your top pair defense to go out with your top line because in my mind, your top defenseman, your top two defensemen, right? They should assist with your offense. They should kind of help push, I guess, that offensive kind of mindset where maybe they're not the most steady defensively, which is why they might not always play with your top line, because you don't want your Carlson to play with your Pasternak if they both
Right,
can't
right,
play
right.
defense.
Right.
So, but I mean, that's why the kind of Zadorov signing was so intriguing, because he wasn't Chara, but he kind of reminded you a little bit of Chara, who, I mean, for all points and purposes, he was your number one defenseman when, they won the cup. He was a leader. He wasn't always the most offensive person, but the dude had a cannon for a shot. His defense was almost perfect. No one stayed in front of the net, and you were kind of hoping that's what Zadorov was. So, yeah, they don't always have to be your top offensive, but they either need to be your team's leader, if that's where you want him to be, or they need to be that guy that can, move the offensive forward, and help those forwards almost become better. So it's all.
In my mind, the top pairing guys to me defensively are the guys that the other team should be scared shit of to skate into the zone and be worried about what's coming at them. And I don't know if that's an old school approach to the game. All right, Mo.
Well, think about it, right? We've talked a lot about how
a little
that
bit of
position has
goddamn
changed.
fear.
But like how even in
You
recent
ass.
years that position has changed, right? We joke that the Norris Trophy is no longer for what a defenseman what their job actually is. It's for someone who is just an offensive defenseman at this point. And it's no longer for that player who is truly a defensive defenseman, which is, I think, what you kind of think of in terms of,
Right.
what defensemen used to exclusively be. And I don't think that that's the case necessarily anymore for a multitude of reasons. I think that philosophy of, like we referenced in our previous episode about how Jim Montgomery activated the D,
Yep.
I see a lot more of that. I think that is a USA hockey, at least, in the United States, and I think in Canada, they're very similar models, but
Mhm.
it's training kids in youth hockey. And like I see that with my kid in youth hockey, where they're really putting an emphasis on playing all positions, and they're not even having them commit to a position now until I think a lot later than they used to. So you have a lot more offensively skilled defensemen out there who can do all of those things. So Mo, when you're thinking about this top line, how much of it is a coach's philosophy or just what's available in terms of the makeup of the two players that are on that in that pairing? Is it you try to match up an offensive defenseman with a defensive defenseman? Does the defensive defenseman tend to find themselves more in a lower pairing position for specific use? Like what
Right.
is your philosophy on that?
Yep. So I mean, you've got different styles of defensemen, like you said, right? You got the offensive defenseman, your kind of two-way defenseman, your shutdown guy who really doesn't do much offense, and then just the kind of the guy that's like the jack of all trades. So the way I see it is your offensive defenseman is like a guy like Lohrei, where you're gonna get more offense or more offensive opportunities out of him, but his defense will kind of lack a little bit. So I always would like to pair him with not someone that's the same, because you're basically begging for disaster.
Mm.
And in my mind, I only really want one or two of those guys, because you're only going to have 6 defensemen dressed. So
Yeah.
why have more? So
Right.
he's probably your top power play specialist. That's
I was going to
why.
say, ideally, you would want one of those
Yeah.
guys to be on
Yeah.
one of your power play units.
Yep, and he's probably not a penalty kill guy, or he is if you need it. So I mean, playing him with a guy that's probably a little bit two-way, you don't want to play him with someone that's purely defense, because they're going to slow that line down, because they're probably playing with the top 2 lines. So if someone's a little bit slower, like a Peak or a Spoon, it's going to be not really the best complementary kind of dynamic there. So in my mind, you're going to want someone that's more two-way. So a guy like McAvoy is perfect. He can skate, he can hit, he can be that physical guy, but he also doesn't have to put the pressure on himself to always score. And I think that's one thing that Bruins fans kind of get hung up on is Charlie doesn't, generate offense on the score sheet, but he's a game changer in so many other ways. And I mean, Chara never lit up the score sheet either, but I mean, the dude hit everybody in sight. You never wanted to go into the corners with him. And, I mean,
They literally
Seidenberg,
had to change
it was, yeah.
how the boards are structured because he almost decapitated someone.
He almost killed a guy, which was the best thing ever.
Catch your
Let's
head.
be honest. That was the best.
I mean, we can laugh about it now, but
Horrific.
it's just like, it was just so, again,
I laughed at the time too. Let's
No!
be honest.
I didn't laugh. I didn't laugh at the time, because I thought, okay, listen. I mean, again, if Zdeno Chara is not a dirty player, never has
No.
been, has never been part of his game. But what was ridiculously funny was their fan base calling freaking 911 to have Chara arrested for assault and battery, for Christ's sake.
That's
That
insane.
was perfect.
But when
Oh, that was
when you
great.
look back at that, because I know, we're going to use the 2011 defensive pairings for the Boston Bruins as kind of an example of how you want to maybe focus on building your core defensemen moving forward. Those guys were fucking wrecking balls, man.
Oh yeah.
I mean, when you look at the list of names, and this is why I use the word, like, you want to be afraid to go in the corner. You wanted the opposing team to think about which one of these guys is going to knock my block off before I even get to the goalie to take a shot.
Yep. I mean, even Seidenberg, who wasn't the meanest guy, that guy was big and he was
No, but
tough. He would
man, when
mess
he
people up
hit
too.
someone, he hit someone. Like,
Yeah.
Ronnie Boychuk was the same. I mean, that guy was like, you know, but
Yep. Yep.
I miss that type of play, and I know it's hard to do in today's NHL simply because of, you know, the rules. And it
Yeah.
just seems that there's an aversion on the part of the league to allow defensemen to stand their ground.
Yeah.
And you know, and I'm saying play the game in an honorable way, but there seems to be instances of, you know, if a defenseman is jockeying for position or trying to keep a guy out of the way, that the officials are looking for something to call. Either, you know, some ticky-tack stick infraction or, you know, an interference call of some sort. So I do think that today's defenseman has a harder job than they did in the past.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. I think the defensemen in the past used to get away with more grabbing, a little bit more interference,
Oh yeah, it was
and that
awful.
sort of thing.
No,
Yeah.
it was clutching, grabbing, drag. I mean, you
It
want
was
to talk
boring.
about a slash? You go back and watch. You go back and watch some of those Bruins games in the 70s, and they were like trying to chop each other's wrists off, and they still weren't calling slashing penalties. Today, a
I
little
know.
tap of the stick gets you a slashing call. So
Yep.
now,
Well,
again,
and you don't even have to go. You don't even have to go that far back. I mean, 20 years ago, Scott Stevens was out there as a defenseman, practically murdering people out there, you know,
Yeah.
on the ice, because that's just kind of how the game was, right?
But
Or
I
go
will
out there
say
for
though,
that express purpose, right? He didn't go
Scott
out there.
Stevens did it cleanly. I'd say
Most of-
90% of the time. I'd say 90% of the time
Right.
he did it cleanly. And I mean, if anybody ever wanted to learn how to hit as a defenseman, go back and watch some film on Scott Stevens.
Yep.
I always went back to like Kasperitis.
Yeah.
Hip check. Bring back the hip check, man. That's what I want.
Oh,
Yeah.
man.
But we're
But,
digressing here.
Yeah. So I think your top defensemen, they've got to be your leaders. I mean, they are the leaders of that defensive core. I think they should be veterans. At least one of them needs to be a veteran. In this case, I mean, you've got Lohrei. You know, if there's a rookie or a rookie-ish type player that has the ability and you're willing to kind of put up with some turnovers or giveaways or give up some offensive chances, play him up there. I think that dynamic of kind of veteran rookie-ish kind of mentor works. I think Charamak, yeah. I did
was it Chara Carlo for the longest time?
Yeah.
too, I
Carlo
think.
first.
Yeah.
Yeah. When the Bruins had Dougie Hamilton, was he playing? I forget who he played with, but I know he didn't last too long, but I feel like there might have been something there too.
Yeah, I'd have to go back and look. I don't remember.
Yeah, I don't remember.
I was not
But-
a fan of his game, to be perfectly honest with you. So
Yeah, I don't know if a lot of people were sad when he got traded.
No.
So, but I mean, they are your, you know, either, you know, one's probably a top PK guy, one's a top power play guy. So they're going to be your minute munchers. I mean, some guys could probably take upper 20s, low 30 minutes in the playoffs. I mean, those Chara, those guys are crazy. So
yeah. So Mo, I've got a question.
Yeah.
One of the things that I know I've heard you talk about before, and it's not unique to you, the notion of hockey IQ, right? And
Mhm.
hockey IQ means different things based on the position that you play, right? With a forward, being able to see where a play can develop and go into that empty space before everything else happens, so you could be in the right place at the right time, right?
Yep.
But one thing that I've heard you talk a lot about this year with Zadorov is his seemingly lack of hockey IQ.
We got better.
To me, I've
Yeah.
grown hearing your qualms with him, and I want you to kind of walk us through that in a second, but hearing your qualms has really also opened my eyes to better understanding really what the requirements are for good hockey IQ when it comes to being a defenseman. So, like just you articulating the fact that, well, yeah, if you have someone like Mason Lohrei, who is a little bit more of a loose cannon, he should be paired. So that means he's probably going to be in either a little bit deeper into the offensive zone, or he's going to have a little bit less control over the play and the puck. So you want to be pairing him with someone who has a very, very high IQ to understand and recognize what is my partner doing in this moment and what is happening in front of me, so I can make the right decision to book it backwards as fast as possible to avoid any kind of disaster. So tell us about your qualms, and where does Zadorov, well, I would say typically play, but our top two defensemen were out for most of the season, so we can't really say that. But where should he be, and what's the deal with this guy?
Well, let's, for the sake of this exercise, okay, we're starting healthy. Everyone's healthy.
Yeah.
McAvoy's healthy. Lindholm is
Where
healthy.
should he be?
Presumably, those are your top two guys. Whether now doesn't mean you pair them up together, right? But those are your top two guys.
Yep. So, all right. So I guess we've got three things to talk about, right? So let's just finish with the third pairing of your defense, because in my mind, they're kind of like your fourth line. They're the guys that aren't going to get the high leverage situations. They're going to probably be a little bit stronger, a little bit tougher, a little bit meaner, and probably a little bit more shutdown minded. So I think that's kind of where you look at your defensemen, and probably also they're your your penalty kill guys too. So that's where they're going to make up their time on ice. So Zadorov, for me, when I watch him play, he is extremely lazy getting to the puck in his own zone after the forward kind of like chips it past him or dumps it in from the neutral zone. So there's a couple of things that he does that really kind of, pisses me off, for a lack of better word. The biggest thing that he will do is, if the puck is dumped in behind him, he will not skate for the puck. He will either turn and try to just be that big body that blocks the forward from coming in, and expect the other side defenseman to come in and get it, which if you go back and watch, they never really did, because there was no communication and no one knew what was happening. And he just took so many fucking penalties. So he was like the most penalized player in the NHL or something. So
at multiple points in the season,
right?
He was,
and I don't know if the Bruins still play the same kind of defensive structure where basically your two wingers guard the defenseman at the point and kind of come down to like the top of the dot if they have to. You've got each defenseman, their job, if the puck's in their corner, they're fighting for that puck, and the other guy is in front of the net. When the puck goes to the other side, they flip-flop. So each kind of guy mans their own their quadrant, right? So like that, the other side of the trapezoid, that's where the defenseman's point is. And then the center their job is to be that second guy in, fight for the puck, be that support for a breakout pass. That's how their defense used to be. I think they still kind of run a form of it. It's not better because, I mean, you lost Bergeron, you lost Krejci, you lost guys that basically created that system. But Zadorov is just slow to getting to his side or reading and reacting and trying to understand if he should go to the front of the net or go in his corner. There's just so many little things that just frustrate you to the point where I don't know why the Bruins signed him in the first place. Because
Well,
I don't know if you can teach this guy to actually give a shit, because it doesn't look like he does.
Well,
right?
we're gonna briefly pause there for our ad break, because I'm gonna share a stat with you, Mo, that you might not be aware of, or maybe you are aware of, where where Zadorov is concerned, because I want to hear from you about where you would pair him in
Okay.
the hierarchy of defensemen. So I'm going to take a quick little ad break.
All right, Bruins fans, if you're thinking about picking up some new gear, now's the time. I'm already planning to grab a fresh Pasternak jersey this fall. Who knows? Maybe he's rocking a new letter on the front. The NHL shop is running tons of season-ending and summer sales right now, including 20% off Fanatics gear. And here's the best part. When you shop through our link in the show notes, a portion of your purchases helps support this podcast. Same gear you'd find at the pro shop, but with way better perks. So stock up, save big, and help keep Bruins Tape to Tape rolling all year long.
The NBA 82 game grind is done, and now the real fun begins. The NBA playoffs are here, and it's time for all the high-stakes drama, clutch moments, and jaw-dropping plays. I can't wait. If you're looking to make the playoffs even more exciting, DraftKings Sportsbook has you covered as an official sports betting partner of the NBA. Try placing a bet on your favorite player's performance. Will they drop 30 points, 40, or more? It's your call. Here's something special for first-timers. New DraftKings customers bet $5 to get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Make it a playoff run to remember with DraftKings. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code THPN. That's code THPN for new customers to get $200 in bonus bets when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 and over, age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in New Hampshire, Oregon, and Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/ftball. NFL Plus Premium offer available only to new and former NFL Plus subscribers. Additional NFL Plus Premium terms at nfl.com/terms.
Welcome back, folks. And
That was short.
yes, it was very short. But, where we paused, we were talking about the breakdown of defensive pairings and Mo's philosophy about your top pair defensemen, pair 2 and pair 3. And we were talking about Nikita Zadorov. And Mo, I would agree with you on the concern related to hockey IQ. And, far be it for any of us to pass judgment on what we think players do or don't know. We just base our assessment on what we see on the ice. And, when he first put on the Bruins jersey, it would make you wonder quite often, dude, what the hell are you thinking? Right? We asked ourselves that numerous times. Now, your comment before we went to break was, I don't know why the Bruins signed him to begin with. And I would say to you, the reason why the Bruins signed him was because they were thinking that they were building a team to go up against, specifically, in my mind, the Florida Panthers.
I agree.
Because we have been getting the crap kicked out of us by this team, and our defensemen looked relatively soft
Yep.
during those series. So I understand the method to the madness. I will agree with you that he was kind of a train wreck, an unmitigated train wreck to start the season. But I just pulled up the Bruins stats to finish the season. And again, this isn't the be all end all. This stat still means something to me. His plus minus plus 25, the highest on the team.
I know.
I don't even know.
I don't know.
But and again,
It's
maybe
not.
because I wanted to hang my hat on something positive through this disastrous freaking season we sat through. But I thought he got better as the season went along. I think he got more comfortable in his role. I think he was embracing being somewhat of a leader after the Bruins pretty much traded all of their leaders and their core. So I think that means something of significance to him. And I think he cares. I do truly believe, hearing him speak, that he cares about that spoke bee. He cares about, his play on the ice, the play of his teammates. So I am willing to give him the benefit of the doubt with, a full season, with a training camp that doesn't look like it's a shit show. It's from what it sounded like. It's just a shit show. And you've got new guys coming in and you're running your training camp. I don't know who the hell was running it, like a gong show. So
True.
He's on this team. He's not going anywhere because honestly, I don't think anyone's taking that contract, even if we wanted him to be gone. So where would you have Nikita Zadorov in your scheme of pairings?
That's a great question. So,
and who with, by the way?
So, all right. I don't think he's a top guy.
No.
I don't think I want him.
I agree with you.
Looking at it, he's a left-handed shot, I think, if I remember right. So, unfortunately, you've got Lindholm, who's also a left-handed shot, that I don't think you want to put two lefties out there and have one play right, and you can't do the boards properly. So, I think in a perfect world, he would probably be a second line defenseman with someone that was a little bit more offensively minded, like a Lindholm. If one of those guys was a right-handed shot, I think that combination could work. Just because Lindholm is a better skater and could probably pick up the puck if Zadorov is doing that same thing and letting the puck go and that sort of thing. But maybe
you wouldn't put him with Chucky because he's not ultimately. Zadorov is just ultimately not good enough to be on that first pair.
I think he is, but I don't think Chucky is offensive minded enough.
Enough.
To,
No,
And I think
not.
the pressure would get to McAvoy where the fans would just turn on him, and I don't think it's fair to anybody. And Lohrei and McAvoy seem to play really, really well together.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is, but they seem to have really good chemistry. And I think Lohrei kind of suffered when Mac went down, and then he kind of picked it up. And,
big time.
Well, talk about asking a kid to do too much. And I know, he finished the season disastrously. There's no other way to put it, right? Just disastrously.
Yeah.
But
we
also have to understand that again, they were without Lindholm and McAvoy, and so I don't know that he would have been put in the myriad of situations that he was with Lohrei was put in to finish off the season.
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, if you think about it, probably Zadorov and Peak would be a decent third line. I mean, you've got a right-handed shot in Peak and a lefty in Zadorov. That kind of lets Zadorov be a little bit more risky offensively. I think he kind of has it in him to want to probably pinch a little bit more where Peak will be that kind of that Adam McQuaid type guy. And then hopefully that allows Zadorov not to be the guy that takes all those stupid penalties and let Peak kind of do it, so Zadorov can do that penalty kill and go from there. So I think the Bruins have a pretty big void to fill in that second line defensive spot to pair with a Lindholm.
Because we jumped from first to third, but like what? Where are we going here with?
It's because he doesn't have an ideal partner. I mean, I can't remember now off the top of my head for some reason the year of the perfect season. Who was Lindholm's partner? Because he had a phenomenal year that year. But who was he paired with? Was he paired with Carlo? I didn't think so. But
he was paired with Mac a little bit.
I don't remember anymore.
I don't remember.
No.
Yeah, but they then
McAvoy and
because
Grizzlick were joined at the hip, which always drove me crazy.
Yeah.
Drove me absolutely.
So who was with Lindholm?
Freaking bonkers. What year was that?
Listeners, yell at us in the comments because we cannot remember off the top of our head.
Remember who was with them, but
I don't know.
So we talked a little bit then now about who should be doing what.
So here's the thing. I mean, you guys,
and we've talked about Zadorov, which I love your idea of pairing him with Peak. We're paired together.
Who plays with Lindholm, right? Is it Yoki Haru? Does he come back? Do the Bruins sign Dante Fabro, who Shinzawa was talking about? I mean, Is there someone in Providence that can step up? Who was the guy? Who was the rookie that played the last game? Was that Jackson?
Edwards?
Yeah, I think so, right? I mean, I liked what I saw from him. I don't think he's ready, but I think he's a guy that in the coming years could, be that seventh defenseman. But man, it's one of those things where you wanted Carlo to work out, but it just didn't.
I know.
I think a guy that they're going to need is someone that is probably a little bit more physical. Because I don't think Lindholm, I mean, that's if his knee holds up. I mean, Lindholm is not the toughest guy and can probably be pushed around, which is why him and McAvoy played well, because no one messed with Mac. So I hate the idea of bringing Yoki Haru back just because I don't see him as that kind of physical defenseman that could play with Lindholm. So I don't really know what's out there or what's available. But
is there anyone down in Providence? I know these guys don't grow on trees, but is there anyone down in Providence?
Or what about some of our alternates like Wotherspoon?
Spoon is I think Spoon's probably priced himself out of Boston. But I would say he's really like your 6th, 7th defenseman. Like if Pete goes down, that's who I want in. I didn't see a whole lot out of Spoon that made me go, holy shit, I need this guy back. Let's just I mean, they've got there's not really a lot down there. I mean, we've got Ian Mitchell.
I didn't think there was, but maybe, I thought you might know something I didn't. I mean, again,
so more holes.
Defensemen don't, franchise-altering defensemen don't grow on trees, is what I keep hearing.
They do not.
I don't think they're going to, unless they get like the 1st or 2nd overall pick, I don't think they're going to draft a defenseman that's going to slot up and play right away. I don't know who's available in the free agency market, but maybe they can swing a trade. Maybe they can, Korpisalo probably will look to get traded. Maybe you pair him with Zacha and look for a defenseman to fill that role, or who knows.
Well,
but I think
he wants more games.
Yeah, I think you're gonna need you're gonna need to find someone that can play with Lindholm. That I would like them to be someone that can, man. You'd almost want like a a Carlos Zadorov hybrid.
I was going to
Someone
say,
that-
you're going to want like some more, like the muscles
Right, but
to
someone
pair
that can
with
also
the finesse, because
yeah,
Lindholm is a little
right.
bit more of a finesse player.
But I think Zadorov is a little too slow
Yeah.
for Lindholm.
Yeah.
Even though I think doesn't Zadorov have like the fastest burst of any Bruins player this year or
But
something?
that's because his legs are 10 feet long. I mean, the stride is just ridiculous. Give me a break.
I know.
So it sounds like, and we know, because you mentioned in the last episode that you would, of course, rather see Mason Lohrei be a forward.
Yep.
I can't imagine that that's ever going to happen.
No,
I know.
But here's what I do want them to make a determination on.
Yeah.
About this kid.
Yeah.
He seems to be more, my view, watching the games, he seems to have more interest in being an offensive-minded defenseman than balancing his game with some defense, right? So I know, the reins are taken off, and, they've taken the pony and they've turned him into, or trying to turn him into, a show horse, but you need to strike a balance here, or he needs to strike a balance as a player, because if you're going to be a top pairing defenseman, you've got to be able to play defense, and you've got to be able to make smart decisions with the puck. And I know we've touched on, Zadorov's hockey IQ, and I think the same could be said sometimes of Mason Lohrei, with decisions that he's made with the puck. So,
although he has a little bit more of an excuse,
I know he's a lot younger.
He's younger.
Yeah, he's definitely younger. But this is why, though, I think it's imperative that the Bruins get this figured out with this player. If he's part of your core defense and he's part of the future of your team, then this aspect of his game has got to be focused on and worked on.
Yeah. Yep.
Right. And I mean, looking at the list of defensive free agents, there's not really a whole lot of people out there that make you happy.
Yeah.
I mean, do you go after a guy like Brent Burns, who's 41?
No. Enough. Just finally
talk about
one of the younger teams.
When I don't want to recycle coaches, and I don't want to recycle players who should be like, filing their retirement papers.
Exactly.
Like I just, I'm good with that.
Yeah. Well, that's a great idea for one of our episodes that we'll have in the month of June leading up to the free agency. But let's wrap this up. We're going to have, of course, more conversation in the coming weeks with Professor Mo. So make sure, if you haven't already, to like and subscribe and follow us, rate and review on all the podcast platforms. But make sure you also sign up for our Substack so you can get all of those unique takes by Professor Mo right into your inbox.
Good articles.
Yes,
good articles. We got rid of Freddie, so I have no doubt that he'll eventually turn Lohrei into a forward. So
I know, if anyone can do it, it's going to be Mo. But any final thoughts about your philosophy around defense?
I think we're in better shape on defense than with forwards. I think depending who the coach is and what their philosophy will be is going to kind of help determine kind of whose holes get filled. That's why you might see a Yoki Haru come back if they want a guy who can kind of skate and do a little bit more offense. But the biggest thing is going to be, how is Lindholm's knee? What is the health of it? Can it hold up? If not, I think the Bruins are a little bit more screwed. But I like what they have, and man, it's kind of nice to have at least something you don't necessarily have to worry about. Your top goalie, your top two defensemen, and your top line are probably your most important things. And the Bruins seem to have that under control, we'll call it. So,
We'll
I mean,
just
I know
throw
people,
in-
so
We'll just throw in they all have to play better, though, than they did this past season. I mean, I
yes,
think
well,
that's a given. They all
Minor
have
detail.
to perform better.
I
Minor
think they
detail.
will. So, but I think I think we're gonna be okay. So we'll see. Then again, I did think Max Jones was gonna be really great last year,
I did
and that
too.
didn't happen.
I
So
think we all did. So you're not alone.
Yes.
We all have those
Whoop.
moments.
Yep.
But stay tuned for another episode coming up soon with us. And as always, go Bees.
Go Bees. Thanks
Go
for tuning
Bees.
in.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, I can't stand the Leafs.